Greece has suffered kind of multiple waves of insecurity, including out of the collapse of Syria, the rise of ISIS in Iraq, the refugee flows that came through your country a decade plus ago. You now, obviously, a central member of NATO. There is a hot war in Europe. There is also a hot war in the Middle East that hopefully is coming to a close, at least for now. You're really at the intersection in this very strategic region of the Eastern Med. Can you just talk about the security outlook from where you sit and how you're thinking about your national interests in this new era of coming?
When I'm usually addressing a European audience, I'm not saying that we don't have the luxury of being in the geographical position of Luxembourg, being safe all around. And sitting now in Washington, D.C., I think we all can appreciate that the war in Ukraine, or the war in the Middle East, we know it happens, but they're very far away. It's not just an ocean dividing us. But if you see, for example, in the northern eastern Greece, in the city of Alexandroupolis, which is the main NATO port in northeastern Greece, the distance to Odessa is just 500 kilometers. So it's, I assume, like having a war somewhere between New York and Boston, or somewhere there. So, and there's just slightly larger distance between us and Gaza, and us and Lebanon. So that is what it is. And I have to say, and I totally agree with the previous speakers here, the last thing we can and we should do is agree on any kind of appeasement. Again, I'm always saying that appeasement as a condition for peace was answered definitely in the most profound way in the 1st of September 1939, when Hitler invaded Poland. So, for appeasement, we know clearly what are the results. What we have to agree on, and we are ready to do that duty, we, more frontline countries, is support rules-based international order. Not accept change of borders by force. Not succumbing to brutal force. Not accept terrorism as a way of changing in this world. Easier said than done. But yet again, I have to totally agree with the Republican Party here in the United States. It is the only recipe for peace, is the only recipe for stability, is the only recipe for having a strong economy which serves our people.
Thank you. We're not just in kind of a military competition, it's all about hard power. Your point about the 3 C's initiative is great. We're actually in a technology competition with authoritarian adversaries. We're in an economic competition. Our private sector is a singular strength for us. In China, it's not clear there even is a private sector. In Russia, there really isn't. It's all oligopolistic, kind of mafia-led, rather than market-driven. Mr. Minister, I have a question for you as a politician. You're welcome to comment on the NATO dynamic. But part of what we need to do here in all of our countries is bring our publics along, whether it's on defense spending, whether it's on navigating great power competition, whether it's on managing foreign investments in our countries to make sure they don't produce security vulnerabilities, hardening our IT infrastructure. What do you think is the best way to talk to the public about these issues? And how can we bring them along? We're really living in a new era. I mean, certainly in Europe, this old era of peace and prosperity and, everyone is Luxembourg is long gone. What is your advice?
Well, first of all, I'll speak a bit about investment, if you allow me for 1 second, because there are some things that, to my eyes at least, look quite schizophrenic, and I'm speaking about the European Union. What am I saying? We all advocate that we have to raise our defense budget. In Greece, we spend north of 2%, probably north of 3.5% from our national budget on defense. Why do we do that? Not just because we are a good ally in NATO, but also because we face a threat from our neighbors, Turkey. But, coming out to the European Union, the European Union says that all countries should raise defense spending, and also some, like President Macron of France, advocate for an autonomous European presence in the defense sector. Others say complementary to NATO, fine, but with larger capabilities. And now comes the trick. Although the European Union advocates for more spending, they have such fiscal rules that even if you slightly exceed your fiscal limits, which have not changed, I repeat, have not changed after the Russian invasion in Ukraine, you're being put under probation. And they are going to examine if you're right or wrong to exceed those fiscal limits. Now, the markets will raise the interest rates on your bond in such a level that you are facing a crisis long before the European Union decides if you're right or not right in raising your defense budget. And so we cannot go forward like that. We have to understand that we're living in an era where peace is not a given. And unless we can deter countries, people, leaders that believe to alternative solutions for government, to different societies, to different values, we will not survive. We have accepted as democracy, as a given. We have accepted peace as a given. It is not like that. We were wrong. We entered the 21st century believing that we, our children, our grandchildren, will live in peace and prosperity. That is not the case. This is obvious. I can explain why we were wrong. But that's not the reason to spend time on that track. There are other things to discuss. But we have to change the way we think. And we have also to explain that to our public, especially we, the center-right parties. We advocate for strong defense. You know, I had to go to a Greek panel 2 days ago because we are reforming our armed forces with naming Agenda 2030. And I was asked the very old question, the question that the French public was asking before the First World War and before the Second World War. Butter or guns? But if you cannot defend yourself, you will not have any battle, because somebody else will come and take it from you. So in order to have battle, you have to have defense. Spending money on defense is not throwing money out of the window. By the way, just a remark on opposite. I'm grateful to you, because you cancelled your submarines from France, and I had a much stronger hand in negotiating with Group Naval Africa.
Okay.
Sorry, can